Points of Change. Podcast Accenture. Szukaj w Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast i wszędzie tam, gdzie słuchasz swoich podcastów.
We live in a society that generates outstanding amounts of data. From simple actions performed on our smartphones to complicated genetic codes using biotechnology. No human is able to process all of this, but fortunately, we were able to create something that helps us to make sense out of it. We created artificial intelligence. How does AI help us at work and in our lives? What kind of tasks is AI good at? How does it help our business? How can you start a career in a field of AI? What's the difference between artificial intelligence and applied intelligence? We're going to discuss these aspects in this episode, talking to one of the AI experts at Accenture. My name is Chris Kobylecki, and my guest is Tomasz Mostowski, head of Accenture Applied Intelligence in Poland.
Wow, is that a new phone?
Yep, I just got a new one at work.
Can I see it? Can I? Please.
You know the policies. I can't give it to anyone.
Right.
But I can show you what it does. For starters, I was so annoyed with the fingerprint sensors in the previous phone because it sometimes worked and sometimes didn't. And now I can unlock it with my face.
Yeah, that's convenient. I use it in mine all the time.
I know, and that's why I wanted to have it too.
What else can it do?
And the camera's apparently really good too. I read that it actually uses AI to enhance the photos.
Oh, wow, this looks so crisp. And the colors are so vibrant. Hey, I'm jealous. Your camera takes better photos than mine.
Who would have thought that having a husband who is a gadget geek would be so hard?
Speaking of gadgets, I've got a recommendation for a great show about gadgets today.
Recommendation from whom?
Our streaming service, obviously. Do you want to watch it together?
And binge all the episodes in one sitting?
Is there any other way?
Let me check my calendar first, though. Hey, helper. What's my schedule tomorrow morning?
First item in your calendar is at 11 a.m. Meeting with Olivia.
Okay, I think we can watch it.
I'll prepare popcorn.
Hi, Tomasz. Hello, Tomasz, head of Accenture Applied Intelligence in Poland. I'm more than happy to talk with you today. We're going to talk about applied intelligence. I would love to find out the very beginnings of AI in your life. I think that you started with creating something fun and exciting for yourself. Can you tell us more about this?
So, hi, Chris. I'm very glad to be here with you. You probably wanted to ask me about my experience in building some of the neural networks. And, neural networks is part of the broader artificial intelligence topic. And at some point in my play with analytical methods to build and understand the world, I built a simple, I would say, neural network that was producing some music, so it was actually jazz music. So it was composing the jazz music based on the input that I was feeding the machine with. So I created an artificial intelligence for creating new music based on the music that it already heard and was trying to replicate the idea. But the beginning of my experience with artificial intelligence, I think, go much further. Already during my studies, we had some topics about artificial intelligence, how you can build neural networks. But at that time, a lot of those things were very theoretical because we did not have the computing power, we don't have enough data to really build those models and put them into, I would say, practical applications. So that was a lot of interesting stuff, but we could not really use it. And only way further, I realized that the artificial intelligence or the concept of artificial intelligence is way, way older. And if you go back, it's actually people started to write about it in the 50s. And many of the theoretical concepts are still being used. So the way we think about neural networks is not much different than what people started to describe on how to build, let's say, this thinking machine in the 50s.
Could you tell us, like, was that Jazz neural network that you created was the very first project that you created in AI, or how did you start with AI? That was basically what I wanted to find out.
It's a hard question because I think there is like this very thin border between what we call statistics, machine learning, and artificial intelligence. And I think that there are not many people who can really tell you that this is an artificial intelligence and this is not, especially if we talk about a narrow artificial intelligence. So that's what we basically develop. And I think that this concept of building this, I would say, virtual composer was my first experience in building kind of a neural networks on how to apply it in the real world. But this is many of the machine learning algorithms that I have used much earlier, you could also probably claim that they were kind of an artificial intelligence. But I think this is the closest concept of what people think of artificial intelligence, something that can really replicate human brain and be intelligent in a way that we think we are.
So we briefly touched neural networks and all sort of different aspects of AI. This is a really broad topic, but today's topic is applied intelligence. Could you explain us what is applied intelligence? This is a name coined by Accenture, I guess. So if you can elaborate more, what applied intelligence actually is?
Yeah, that's a good question, because for us or for Accenture, we are very much focused on application of methods that we have, and we are very focused on the practical aspects of the work that we are doing. So we try to help our clients, normally big companies, to solve some of their problems. And many of the problems we need to solve with data, with machine learning methods, with artificial intelligence methods. But we are not a research and development company. We are not only focused on breaking the barriers of the, let's say, thought or of the academic research, but we are really focused on application of these methods and helping the companies to work better. So when you think about it, you had the concept of business intelligence, which was quite old, or maybe not that old, but now you have this applied intelligence. So this is something that we try to get the data, we try to build some models out of it and use it in a real world problems. In this concept of building this applied intelligence, this is very important for us, not only to focus on the most, I would say, advanced methods or most advanced ways of solving the problem, but to be very practical. And in many cases, you have to have a solution that works really fast or gives you an answer really fast. And sometimes it is more important to have the almost right answer in a very short time than have a perfect answer, but after a very long time.
So basically, you guys are combining multiple things. On one hand, you're using AI. On another hand, you have to have data and you're using AI. Then you're applying automation into that. You also have a human factor in order to solve the business problem in the best possible way. Depending, either it has to be really fast or it has to be perfect. Could you tell us how you see the differences with the applied part that you just presented compared to just artificial intelligence? What's the difference?
The biggest difference is still on the practical aspects of it. So you can build a lot of things in artificial intelligence just to show that you can do it. And you can do a lot of things just to prove that the artificial intelligence works, or you can just build it to break a further barrier in the academic research. I think that's a very interesting topic, but we focus more on the practical applications. And sometimes we do not build neural networks. We build something very simple, something that you could build in the 60s, I don't know, even logistic regression, just to answer the question. And I think a lot of the question is how you define artificial intelligence and what is artificial intelligence for you. And only then you can really distinguish between applied intelligence and artificial intelligence. We want to really not to try to get into discussion what artificial intelligence is, what is a narrow artificial intelligence, what is a strong artificial intelligence, but how you can apply it or apply those methods in the real life problems.
Can you tell us why the applied part is so important here? In a sense that on one hand, it's going to philosophical and science way of solving a problem, given problem. On another hand, we have the business side, and you guys are on a business side using the applied part of it. Why there's the importance for the applied part?
I think you need to start with the history, because many companies realized a few years back or 10 years back or 20 years back that there's a lot of potential in the data. And they tried to use this data in order to improve their business operations, to be cheaper, to be more focused on their customers, to deliver more personalized content to their customers. And they tried to build those different models. And many of the companies, I would say the digital natives like Facebook or Amazon, they were already built with this idea. But many companies tried to catch up later with this. And they started to invest money on building those models or building those capabilities to be more intelligent. And in many cases, they were building what we call proof of concept, where basically they were trying to see if they can use their data, and they failed. And they failed on many different occasions. So they failed during the phase of building the proof of concept, or they failed in what we call the industrialization of those concepts. So they even could prove something could work, but they could not really attach it to do their business operations. So they could not use it on a daily basis. They could not use it on when they were targeting their customers or when they were talking to their customers. And we realized that this is important difference, and we need to focus on this practical application of it, how you can use it in a daily life, so how the company can really benefit from using those methods.
Could you tell us what kind of problems do you guys solve using AI? What's a typical business case that you're involved with?
Many of the work that we are doing is around what you call a customer analytics or marketing analytics. So anything that involves having a very good understanding of the customers that are customers to, let's say, our clients. So you can think about a big telecommunication company and all of the clients that use the cell phones. We try to give this telecommunication company information about their clients. So who they really are, what their needs are, what is their pain points, what are they looking for in terms of the service, and sometimes how you can service them better, how you can make the offer unique for them. And this is not an easy task, especially if you think about telecommunication companies, which have tens of millions of customers sometimes. And those customers are very different because you have, I would say, retail customers, so people like us, individuals, and then you have corporations, even like Accenture, that can have hundreds or thousands of cell phone users. So to understand what their needs are, how you can approach them, how you can make this very personalized experience for them is part of our work. And we do it not only for the telecommunication company, but we do it also for banks. We also do it for retail. So let's say the shops that you can think of, the FMCG companies, so everything that you can buy actually in those shops. So a lot of different use cases, but the issue of being very personalized is extremely important, especially now when you think about the e-commerce, digital world, where people would like to have something online very targeted to their needs. You can think of us as being very targeted, like Netflix, with the recommendations that you're having. But there are many more things. So we also help to tackle financial crime. For example, for many banks, it's an important topic to prevent money laundering. So we help to build the methods or the models that can identify which people are laundering money. And then if you can identify it, you can try to stop it. And this is very important because most of this money that needs to be laundered comes from illegal operations. And some of them are, drug operations, or there can be human trafficking. So things that are not good for the world, and we try to tackle them. But in our experience, we also had some very niche products or very niche topics where we were helping police in one of the European countries to become more data-driven and to really understand, for example, what are the reasons why some people, after committing a simple crime, will stay in, let's say, in the crime industry, so they will continue to be criminals, and why some people turn back and behave in a legal way.
Would you say that for a company to use AI, we're living in a times where basically applied intelligence is used across more and more industries? Over the years, we're somewhere around 40% of enterprises using AI in one form or the other. Would you say that AI is a good thing for all sort of different enterprises, or AI cannot be applied everywhere into every single enterprise?
I can't think of an industry where you cannot apply artificial intelligence or machine learning or data. So it is now everywhere. And I think with the technological advances, it is more and more affordable even for the smaller companies. So a few years back, that was the domain only for the big companies like banks or telecommunications, which could afford to buy huge servers to their sellers, and they could run extremely expensive computation calculations. Now you can do it way cheaper because you have the access to the cloud, and you can rent a very small server, or you can rent a very big server, but for a very short period of time, and you can calculate whatever you want. You have also the access to the extreme vast of data that are external. So if you look around, there's a lot of data that you can get free online, or maybe you can buy online, and this could support your operations. And this is not only for what we also mostly focus on, like the business, but also there are a lot of things which come under the umbrella data for good. So things around natural protection, so protection of rainforests, protection of endangered species, things like this are also tackled with artificial intelligence, where you can, in an automated way, analyze the pictures, you can analyze the satellite videos, and so on and so on. And through that, you can get intelligent information, and you can try act on it. And the same things are being done for different charity organizations. So really to identify what the people care about, how you can really use the money in a wise way that normally is a scarce resource, how you can use it in a wise way to tackle a problem.
Is AI really intelligent?
It depends how you define intelligence. I think that's the big question. And there are a lot of things how people try to define intelligence, and they tried to think what an intelligent machine really is, and how, when you will think that the machine is intelligent. So there are different tests, cognitive tests, that can tell if machine is intelligent or not. And so most of the algorithms that people build nowadays are, as you said, very specific, and they tackle a very specific problem. So, for example, recognize if there's a cat on the picture, and a very famous internet example. And the algorithms that people have built are already very, very good at it. And in many cases, they are way better than humans. So normally what people try to compare is, can an algorithm beat a human in a given task?
That's true, but that's again, this is a really specific case, right? Can you recognize, is there a cat on a picture, right? It doesn't say what kind of animal is on a picture, because that already gives you a subset of all sort of different animals, or even having a way more open question saying like, what's on a picture? Right. So those are. It really depends on how you structure this.
Yes. So there are already algorithms that can tell you what kind of animal is on the picture, because that's something that we have already tackled, and people solve these problems normally because there is a practical question behind it. Yeah. In many cases, even in this environmental issues, there are like photo booths that are shooting photos in the wild, and then you do not have maybe resources to analyze every single picture. So we would like to have a tagged solution that will identify, is there an elephant or is there a tiger on this picture? So you can do it. And then the question is, if the machine can recognize anything on a picture, and what this anything really is. Because if you think about autonomous vehicles, maybe it is enough that it recognizes the traffic lights, other cars, people on the streets, just not to crash. And maybe it doesn't have to recognize if a person on the street is a male or a female. Maybe it's not important. So it really depends on the question, what is your task and what do you want to solve? And we are still not in the place where you could say that we have something that is called the general artificial intelligence, something that really mimics human brain. And the algorithms are very good in solving the particular problems that we give them at hand, but they can be already quite broad.
That's true. How many, like in your opinion, how many years ahead in the future the general intelligence is going to be reached by AI algorithms? There's also a way more scary thing coming after, right? Because then the algorithms can evolve in an exponential way. So going from general intelligence, we can go into a super intelligence, which basically will we don't even know what will it be, because it will solve problems that we don't even are capable of understanding, right? So I'm wondering, like, what, in your opinion, is the timeline for general intelligence?
Predicting the future is a very hard task. Yeah? So this is not something that we can do in a big confidence. I don't know if you remember, but in the late 90s, there was this a computer that beat for the first time people in chess.
Yeah, of course. The IBM.
IBM, exactly. And then I recently read some articles from that time in the 90s, and many people predicted that the IBM already made a machine that can beat a human in playing chess, but there's still a game called Go, and this will not be tackled till end of 21st century. And as far as I remember, it happened in 2016, talking about it, because people in the 96 or whenever it was could not really predict what will happen in the next 20 years. And they thought that the time to advance to crush people at Go would be much longer than it really was. Now to predict what needs to happen to build a general AI is a very hard task, because I don't think we are very close to it, and we do not have a clear path towards it. There are many companies that started to work on this, and many of the research that they are doing is quite confidential, so you do not hear it about it in the wild. But they are building it, and we don't know if this is a task that is doable, and we do not know how to tackle this problem. Because I don't believe that the way that we are training machines right now, using the neural networks, is the way forward. So you can use it for to tackle a particular problem, so to build a narrower AI. But I don't think you can build a general AI with this issue. But maybe there are people who will prove that I'm wrong.
On one hand, I'm really hopeful for that. On the other hand, I'm kind of scary. And this bridges to my next question. I'm going to do a cliche here, and I'm going to quote Spider-Man, Peter Parker, and say, with great power comes great responsibility. And with AI gives you loads of power. In a sense, it allows you to compute things way faster. It allows you to reach results way, way faster. So would you say that applying an AI into everything is a threat or is it an opportunity?
There's no simple answer to this question. Again, what we do and what we are really focused on is ethics in AI. And this is an important part of the how you tackle an AI problem. So you have to be ethical. And we as a community, I would say, of the data scientists are still working on building the standards. And there are a lot of standards that have already emerged. There was this famous one in Montreal from a few years back. The European Union has made its own artificial intelligence ethics guidance. And this is something that we try to build and try to understand how to be ethical. And I think this is the only way forward, because people need to trust you with their own data that they would like to share in order for us to be able to build good algorithms and help them to have some gains out of this data. So the transparency and an ethical way to talk about the data and use the data is the only way forward. But again, there is always a threat that someone will misuse the data and will use it not for a good cause, and will use it in a bad way. And there is not a simple way to stop it. And I think we as a community need to think about it, how to stop it. And if there is any issue, we should openly talk about it.
Okay, let me see. Let's search how to save time at work.
Hey, ready for a meeting?
Sure. I didn't even notice it's 11 already.
I couldn't help but notice that you search for time-saving tips.
Yeah. I'm just trying to optimize, that's all.
Can I give you a tip from my experience?
Sure.
Do you use the canned email responses?
No. They popped up whenever I was writing emails and they were a bit annoying, to be honest, so I actually switched them off.
That's what I thought. I felt the same about them, but someone recommended I start using them and I decided to give it a try.
And is it any good?
Well, at the beginning the answers were pretty basic, but as I used it more and more, they got more complex.
Okay, so it actually learns?
Yes, and now I use it very often. It's a great time saver.
Really? I didn't actually think it could make a difference. And what about the fact that someone writes to you, a human, and you use an artificial intelligence to respond?
Oh, I know what you mean. I was also a bit hesitant at first. Didn't know how people would react.
And?
I've received exactly 0 complaints so far. And I started treating it as the new normal. Something that helps me at work. Something that is a time saver.
Okay, I have to give it a try then. But how do I actually switch this back on?
I have no idea. But you know who's gonna know?
The search engine?
Yes, and the company chatbot too. I would ask him first.
Right, he's a smart cookie. He's gonna help me for sure.
let's say I would love to start working at Accenture and I would love to get into AI. So I should probably start to think about algorithms. I should have to start thinking about like, what's my first step in order to enter the world of AI?
To enter the world of AI, you have to have some background. So it's not something that you can jump on just walking down the street. Yeah? So you have to have some understanding. And normally this understanding comes from good mathematical or this kind of, I would say, and this comes mostly from the good understanding of mathematical background. So you have to have this background to really understand the concept and try to build on that. And what is important is that you are someone who is really curious, and you're curious about the world. And you would like to really understand what is the business problem that you would like to solve, or what is the business problem that we are trying to solve for our client. And if you start digging into this problem, and you can start digging what the real issue is, then you can start to think how you can solve this problem by looking at the data. What kind of data you would like to have, and what kind of answers you're looking in this data. And only then you can identify which kind of algorithm you can use. And I think that nowadays it is becoming to some extent easier because many of the algorithms you can basically buy on the market. If you go to different cloud providers, there is a whole list of algorithms that you can just use. And you just have to put your own data into this algorithm. So you do not have to have that big knowledge of computer science or of programming that you used to have, that you really needed 10 years ago. Because if you are a smart person, you can just try to get this basic understanding of how those algorithms work, and you can try applying them into your problems. So to summarize, I think you need still to have this mathematical background, but the more important thing is your curiosity about the world, your willingness to learn, and your willingness to tackle a problem in maybe not a very standard way, and to think what is the benefit of looking at your data.
The problem definition, data, tool selection, basically getting a business result out of that. Could you tell us what kind of tools, what kind of model, where can I find those different models that can be applied for creating an AI? And how can I structure my process of creating an AI? What kind of technologies, what kind of programming language? You mentioned that the programming language are not such an important part nowadays, but what kind of tools are we talking about here?
A basic tool to solve the data science or data engineering problem is nowadays Python. And that's what everyone in the community is using. There are, of course, some exceptions, but Python is the language that gives you the most flexibility, and it gives you the easiest way to further industrialize your process. So this is something that you need to probably start with to learn and understand how you can program in Python and how you can solve the problems using Python. Then you have this cloud revolution that is happening right now. And more and more of the things are being moved into cloud. And in cloud, there are different approaches on how you can solve the problem, but some of the ideas are quite repeatable. And again, many of the solutions are being built on Python. Many of the solutions are being built on a quasi-SQL language. So SQL is everywhere. If it's any other way of handling the big data, it is a quasi-SQL language. And then I think it is good to understand the concepts of how the cloud really works and how you can go really what we call serverless. So the concept of Dockerization of your solutions, the Kubernetes is something that is very important to understand, to be able to really use the power of the machines that you are having available on the market right now.
Okay. Can you tell us what are the most important things in order to improve the AI learning processes?
I think the algorithms itself are pretty good nowadays. So you can solve a lot of problems with the existing algorithms and the architecture of your ML algorithms. So for many practical implementations, you can use what's already available and what people have already developed. What is still the hard part is to get the data. So the data that is really clean, that is really valuable, that is really relevant to your problem. And then the real application of it. So to have this feedback loop that you built a model, you apply it into the real world, you see how it works, and then you retrain it, and then you look at it again, and then you retrain it, and you have this feedback loop that gets from the business problem and feeds the algorithm again, and it can learn again and again and again and be a better algorithm. And you can do it in an automated way. That's how many of the things are being built right now. Or you can have a periodic rebuilt by a human. Yeah. So you look at the outcome and you try to improve your algorithm. But I don't think that we are at the position right now where we lack methods or we lack machine learning methods. We just lack maybe sometimes the processes, and we lack sometimes the concept of how the ML should be incorporated into the life cycle of a problem solving.
We've mentioned a couple of different things where AI can be included or applied to, right? So you've mentioned marketing data, customer data, you've mentioned telecommunication clients, and all sort of other ways. We've mentioned gaming and different markets and so on. I'm wondering, in your opinion, what is the most interesting area that changes under the influence of AI?
I think that the whole world is changing based on AI, and this is not a single thing. We have this digital revolution that is changing basically everything. And it's not like this that it's changing only one part of the industry or it's changing only parts of the business. It's changing everything in the real economy, and it's changing everything in the world. So it's not only about business, but it's also about other things. So it's environmental issues, medical issues, that is exactly the same being tackled. And what is quite fascinating right now is that you do not have this borders between industries. If you think about Tesla, they're also really breaking the barriers, and once they have really fully autonomously vehicles, which I think they will have.
Now let's focus on Accenture. How do you guys use AI internally?
There are many simple things where we try to improve our own life with artificial intelligence. So even simple things like, Accenture is a huge company with over 500,000 employees, and we produce a lot of interesting stuff. But then it is very hard sometimes to understand what your colleagues on the other side of the world are doing and how you can gain the knowledge from them. And we have the whole portal where you have a lot of information. And now we improve this portal by using a much better search engine that is much more human focused and gets you much better answers. And you can get the information that you're looking for much faster. Then we are using some of the artificial intelligence to optimize the trainings for our people. So what kind of skills will be required in the near future, and which people we should probably train on having those skills. So what are the prerequisites, and maybe what is the background needed? This is something that helps us to better plan and predict our own future.
How does AI help your clients? Which of their problems are being solved using AI?
Again, I think that nowadays you can solve every problem almost with data and with AI. So there aren't any topics that can't be handled with data nowadays. And again, the first question always is, what is your problem? And why is it important for you? Because sometimes when we talk with the clients, the actual problem is somewhere else than they, at the first way, say that the problem is. So you really have to understand what the real problem is, and then you can try to tackle it. And in many cases, you can tackle it with the data. And what you have observed in the last year, the whole pandemic situation and the change of human behavior, it was also very important for many of our clients to understand and tackle this problem in a smart way.
What can you tell us about the strategic scalers, the companies that are being called that?
The question is, again, it is easy to do something with the data, but this is not easy to really use it in a constant way and in a structured way to really gain benefits for your company. And for me, this is important that those companies can really gain their knowledge, and they can really scale using the artificial intelligence, and they can leapfrog their competitors in terms of using the data.
Will all mathematicians and statisticians be good data scientists, or do they have to have some other skills also in order to evolve in this career? If they do need to program, you've mentioned Python, but are there any other languages that they need to know?
Maybe to start with the first part of the question, are all mathematicians and statisticians good data scientists? And probably the answer is no. You have to have some other skills, as I said, to be a good data scientist, because otherwise every mathematician will be a data scientist. So you really have to have these soft skills, and you really have to have these programming skills, which aren't the same as mathematical skills, and you really have to have this business understanding. And of course, this business understanding, that's something that you will build during your career, or maybe you have built already working for some other industry. But this is a very important part. And then coming back to the programming, when I was starting my career as a data scientist, we were not programming in Python. Then the main language was SAS. And through time, there were different changes, and people started using Python in data science. And they probably started using Python in data science around 2010. But probably till 2014, 2015, that wasn't still the main language of the data science. So for us, this is very important to be adaptive and really be curious and learn the new skills that are required to do our job. And nowadays it's Python, but maybe a couple of years this will be something completely different. So maybe you need to learn more things around, Spark, or you want to learn something more about Scala, or you want to learn something more about Kubernetes, and so on and so on.
I would love for you to sit back right now and start thinking about the future. I know you're not a fortune teller, but there are definitely a couple of trends and things that you see that AI is heading to. So what, in your opinion, are the trends for AI right now? And how do you see the future of AI? We've mentioned briefly the general intelligence coming, and this is definitely in some sort of horizon out there.
I don't think the general intelligence is coming in the near future. So that's okay. I just wanted to have it recorded.
All right. Okay. All right. So what do you see as trends, and where do you think AI is heading?
something that we call the machine learning operations will gain a huge momentum. So this is basically the idea on how you build your machine learning across organizations in a very structured and very prudent way. So in that case, this is something that almost guarantees a success for you. And what I used to call it is, we were in the ages of craftsmanship. So everyone was developing its own model in a very unique way. And some of those models were brilliant and they were very beautiful. But now what really matters is this industrialization. So we have much more standardized approaches, much more standardized models, and they are much more like, a Ford approach to building a car. So very unified and very practical in their way. So this is, I think, where we are heading for. And of course, there will be this touch of customization. So you'll have, this frame that we will use as a backbone that we know that is very resilient. And then on top of it, we will build something that is very specific. But I strongly believe, and this is what I'm telling a lot, is that this standardization of modeling and this industrialization to tackling the problem is coming.
Okay. Thank you so much, Tomasz, for finding time today to talk about AI and applied intelligence. I had a pleasure to talk with Tomasz Mostowski, head of Accenture Applied Intelligence in Poland.
Thank you very much, Chris, and I hope it was interesting for all of you.
Developing AI solutions for breakthrough innovations could be exciting, but it's the incremental changes that make an everyday difference for business and their customers. This is the power of applied intelligence. And it's the companies that we call strategic scalers who really harvest this power to move their business forward. They are at an obvious advantage, but there is still a lot to be done in the field of AI to make it a more effective tool. The next big step for AI seems to be the consolidation of AI solutions. And if you are as excited as we are, there might be a spot for you here at Accenture. Thanks for listening to this episode. Subscribe to the podcast Points of Change in your favorite podcast app to be notified of the new ones. Enjoy your day. Until the next time. Bye.